My friends, what you see every day in the news, that succession of official statements, speeches in the chamber, and cover stories is just a smokescreen. It's an illusion of institutional normality designed to keep you calm while the real scenario is set up in the back rooms of power. But today we're going to tear down that wallpaper. Washington isn't just watching Brazil. Washington has activated what I call the thermal lens. Imagine high-precision sensors that don't see light but detect heat. The heat of violations, the heat of abuse of authority, and the heat of the desperation of those who think they're still operating in the shadows of Brasilia. While certain figures in the judiciary believe their decisions died at the border, Donald Trump's government activated a precision monitoring system that doesn't depend on narratives from the local press. They're picking up the thermal signals of a system that's gone into authoritarian overheating. Look at this, the case of the journalist Luiz Pablo over in Maranhão. It's not an isolated provincial incident. Many of you have already heard about this case, and it's the short circuit that triggered the alarm at the U.S. State Department. Why would a journalist reporting on a minister using an armored car cause such a stir in Washington, you ask me? Because Trump's thermal lens detected there the exact pattern of political persecution disguised as justice. Washington's GPS has already recalculated the route, and the final destination of this journey is not the defense of democracy, but the total isolation of those who dared to target the eyes of the people. Now, let's get to the facts. Luiz Pablo denounced something that in any healthy democracy would be grounds for an immediate investigation against those in power, and he would be applauded by his peers, fellow journalists, and the community. And the report was about the use of an official armored car valued at 400,000 reais. Yes, a car from the judicial system. It's like it was your company's car. And guess by whom? By relatives of a Supreme Court justice. And do you know his name? Flavio Dino. Yes, the minister appointed by Lula, the communist from Maranhão. This is what we call the hierarchy of privilege. It's the feeling that the state is an extension of your own garage. But the system's response wasn't transparency, it wasn't an explanation from the minister. There are even videos showing the minister being filmed on the beach in swim trunks, relaxed, with the official car, even with the department's logo showing it was being used as a work vehicle. And what happened after the journalist's report was a state intimidation operation. Look at him, there he is. Alexandre de Moraes not only got involved in the case, he turned a public interest report into a persecution investigation. It's the tail wagging the dog. Moraes ordered the federal police to knock on the whistleblower journalist's door and seize cell phones, computers, and hard drives. And here is the cardinal sin for the Trump administration, the attempt to break source confidentiality. In the intelligence doctrine that now governs the United States, source confidentiality is the red line. When you try to find out who gave information to a journalist, you're not investigating a crime. You're trying to blind society. The Brazilian system tried to blind the public and ended up revealing its own authoritarian face to the world. And what did Moraes claim? That the journalist violated a minister's individual freedom by monitoring an official vehicle. Think with me, is monitoring the misuse of public money now considered stalking? So, this inversion of values is the thermal signal that Washington needed. They saw that the pretext of saving democracy has fallen apart. Now what remains is the naked protection of privilege. And Trump has no patience for those who use the machinery of the state to shield friends and persecute messengers. And when it comes to Moraes, Washington has long been looking for an opening to catch him again. And that's where the Trump doctrine of 2026 comes in. Forget those diplomatic letters of protest that are no longer good for anything. Forget those fiery tweets from government representatives. Washington now operates by the logic of brute force. They don't waste words, they attach evidence. Every hasty decision, every search and seizure against journalists, and every attempt at prior restraint is being catalogued in sanctioned dossiers. The monitoring of Moraes is not an academic concern, it's a tactical preparation. Backyard geopolitics has changed. Trump understands that to guarantee American economic interests and the stability of the region, he needs legal certainty. And the judicial activism we see in Brazil today is classified by intelligence analysts as a systemic risk. Because exactly the same thing happened, the same modus operandi in other Latin American dictatorships. I want to give you a classic example of this. Venezuela. Yes, the Venezuelan Supreme Court acted exactly like the Brazilian Supreme Court does. Is it a virus that corrodes the predictability of the rules of the game? If the justice can go after a journalist because of a bulletproof car, what will he do to an American company that goes against his interests? Well, has he already done it? Has he already taken down American companies? Blocked them? Did he find them? Censor them? Brazil today is like a ship where the captain still shouts orders on the deck thinking he's in absolute command. But the GPS controlled by Washington has already recalculated the route toward isolation. They are watching the intensity of the Supreme Court's maneuvers to decide the exact moment to turn the key. And it seems that Moraes is eager for a new round of sanctions when he blocks the sentencing guidelines amendment that would release the January 8th detainees. Remember? This is one of the agreements made with the United States and with Trump to lift Magnitsky sanctions on Moraes. And when that switch is flipped, my friends, there won't be any talk about sovereignty that can restart the engines. Well, apparently even Lula has abandoned Moraes. Let's see in the next part whether that's confirmed. Monitoring is a prelude to action. They're watching the pieces move, and believe me, they already know how this game ends. And here we get to the bomb that Trump can use against Moraes. And then you ask me, how does this work, Shimon? Well, in practice, it's a suffocation. Imagine a global switch. Washington has its hand on the handle of that switch. If they decided to impose Magnitsky sanctions on a judge, they don't need to send the police. They simply cut off access to the dollar system. In practice, this is civil and financial death. The target loses access to international credit cards, bank accounts are frozen, trips abroad are cancelled, and even the ability to operate financially within Brazil itself is compromised. No bank wants to be complicit with someone who is on the US Treasury's blacklist. The impact is devastating for public figures who depend on international legitimacy. It's the end of dinners in New York, lectures in Europe, and the protection that money and power usually buy. The Magnitsky Act is the financial guillotine that makes no noise, but it beheads influence. Washington is now considering resuming this application, using the case of the journalist from Maranhão as definitive proof that the Brazilian system has lost its moral brakes. What we're seeing now is the collapse of the protection. Those former international allies, the progressive European media, and the governments that still applauded the self-styled savior activism are jumping ship, all of them. No one wants to be complicit in the direct persecution of investigated journalists. Even Carmen Lucia, the minister, the peer, is jumping ship. The OAS report has already given the signal. They whitewashed to what was done against politicians, but strongly condemned the persecution of the press. The Supreme Court today resembles a ship without a port. They keep issuing orders, they keep trying to show strength, but the effectiveness of these orders is dying at the border. Has the world stopped buying the narrative of defending the institutions, the defense of democracy, the defense of sovereignty? It doesn't fly anymore. When Washington's monitoring becomes public, the message to the market and to diplomacy is clear. Brazil risk now has a name attached to it. The power vacuum is being filled by external surveillance. Moraes and the group around him are realizing that they were used and are now being abandoned by the very left that incited them. They are alone on the deck of this ship that is taking on water from all sides. Not even Lula is willing to go down with this ship. The attempt to bring Minister Dino into the inner circle of the court is a desperate move to try to create a new layer of protection, but it's a maneuver that comes too late. The GPS has already set the destination. The verdict is almost inevitable. The game has changed. Monitoring by Trump is not an empty threat. It's the prelude to action. The Luiz Pablo case proved that the system is not protecting democracy, but rather the privilege of a caste that considers itself untouchable. The thermal lens picked up the signal and Washington has its hand on the switch. And for you who understand that information is the first line of defense, our briefing is still there on our exclusive platform. Always with more data, with more information that we can't bring here. You know that. There are more than 3,000 subscribers who have chosen freedom of thought. With no algorithm censorship, I show the details. With no algorithm censorship, you support what we do here. QR code on the screen, the link in the video description, and in the first pinned comment. That's where we go deeper into what the media is afraid to say. And if you're looking for real culture for your family, away from all the whining and woke indoctrination, check out our series and movies channel. There we analyze series and movies without woke culture. And if that gets inserted into the plot of a movie or series, we'll let you know. So follow our reviews and tips so you can enjoy with your family without any worries. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, like the video, and share it with your friends. Shield your mind. I'm Shimon Oliveira, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.